Recovering from the fight. Devon paced the apartment trying to regulate her breathing. She hadn't expected Christian to get that mad or throw Jack in her face. She had thought that they would have an adult conversation, but somewhere between the girls' conversation from last night and Mr. Ingram's reveal, things had gotten lost in the sauce. She walked the entire length of the apartment, getting in her 10,000 steps as she tried to form a plan. She could fix this. She could move out, she could find another place to live, she could land on her feet, just like she always did. But the thing was, she really didn't want to do any of that. She liked living here. She liked the friends she had and the job that she had. She liked Christian. This time she wouldn't run away. She wouldn't cower under a rock. She would figure out how to face the shit and that she'd kept buried under the rug for far too long, because now she had no other choice. That afternoon, Devon found herself at the Starbucks in Astor Place, anxiously waiting for Rosie's arrival. Somewhere between this morning and now, Devon had panic texted her, Beth and Kira, and somewhere in a part A of a multi-step plan to clean up her shit. When Rosie walked in, she felt a wave of nausea followed by fondness. She looked exactly the same. Rosie was 5'2" on a good day, with a crisp dyed blonde locks, but a natural haircut that made her look authoritarian and approachable all at once. She wore her trademark cardigan with patches from previous shows all over it to a Girl Scout vest. But she changed her glasses. They used to be turquoise frames, and now they were wire frames, which made Devon fear her even more. Hi. Rosie sat down across from her and looked cold and standoffish. Devon couldn't blame her. She had left a trail of hurt in her wake and never bothered to fix it. She knew Rosie needed time to be mad at her, but she hadn't given her any. She had anxiously called and texted trying to make things better until Rosie told her in no uncertain terms to leave her alone. Hi, you look great. Devon tried with a compliment to soften her up. Thanks. Why'd you call? Devon shifted uncomfortably in her seat. They were getting straight to the point, it seemed. I wanted to apologize. You have apologized. Yes, but you haven't forgiven me. And I don't plan to. That's okay. I just wanted to apologize again because I realized the previous apologies I gave you were selfish and not really from the heart. I hurt someone today that I really care about, and he accused me of being selfish. Rosie snorted. That's because you are selfish, Devon. You never think about anyone but yourself. Her words hurt to hear, but they weren't untrue. I know. I know that now, and you're right. I didn't think about you after the fire. I knew that I had messed up. I handled it poorly, and I put you in a really difficult position. I know how hard you work on these shows, and to have one ruined by your best friend is awful. She saw a hint of tears growing in Rosie's eyes. And I'm sorry I never tried to make it up to you. I should have helped you instead of running away. I should have helped the show get back up and running and tried harder to win back your trust after I broke it. But I was a coward, so I ran home to my parents and waited like an idiot for you to get over it. She looked at Rosie, who was wiping tears from her eyes. I'm sorry, Rosie. You were my best friend, and I ruined your shot at moving to Broadway. Rosie interjected. The only thing people remember from that show is the fucking fire. You know that? They don't remember how good the show actually is or how good it could have been on a bigger stage. All they remember is the fuck up, and now my name is wrapped up in your stupidity every single day. Devon could feel the waves of anger rolling off of her, and she understood how much pain Rosie must have been in all these months. I'm sorry, Rosie. I'm so sorry. You deserve to be on Broadway. You deserve to have the recognition for your work you produce, not the damage that I've caused. Thank you. But I don't know how you can ever make this up to me. She wiped a napkin under her eyes, smudging her mascara, and Devon felt her heartstrings tug. Well, funny you should mention that. She took a sip of her coffee, giving herself time to choose her words carefully. I work for someone now who lets me read through discarded scripts on the off chance that there's something good to produce. And the discard pile is full of crap, but our show, she quickly corrected herself, your show, is not crap. So if it's okay with you, I wanted to give him the script, but I wanted to get the most recent version of it since you probably have made changes to it since I've seen you. Rosie looked at her skeptically. Who is this that you're working for? Dave Ingram and his wife? Rosie looked back in shock. You're working for Dave Ingram, as in the Dave Ingram? Yep. Even though it's not as glamorous as you may think, there's some weird shit that's going down. Rosie seemed to come alive with the mention of Dave Ingram's name. Devon had forgotten she had a love of gossip. Oh, I'm sure. I heard he's got this weird thing with his wife. Funny. Devon spent the rest of the afternoon filling Rosie in on her life, from Christian to the Ingrams to the weird familial connection. It was nice catching up with someone who knew her so well. They fell effortlessly back in sync. After 2 hours, the women parted ways. I've missed you, Devon. Rosie hugged her with both arms. I've missed you too, Rosie. Devon hugged her back hard. For the record, I forgive you. Not because you're getting me in with Mr. Ingram, but because I want to, and I've missed being your friend. Thank you. And likewise, I've missed being your friend too. Keep me posted about Christian, though, will you? That poor man sounds like he's been through the ringer. Rosie waved goodbye and headed towards the theater. I will. Send me the script, Devin called after her. When she reached into her purse to pull out her phone, she was surprised to see 3 missed calls from Christian, Beth, and Mrs. Ingram all at the same time. Devin was unsure who to call back first, so she went in order of priority, starting with Mrs. Ingram. Devin? Oh, thank God. Devin could hear the panic in her voice. Mrs. Ingram, is everything okay? Devin started walking towards the Astor Place subway station, lingering outside, waiting to understand what was going on. Unfortunately not. Mr. Ingram had a medical emergency today and was rushed to Lenox Hill. Oh my God, is he all right? Devin was officially worried. I'm not sure. I'm in Aspen. I was calling to see if you could get over there to find out what's going on. I can't get a flight out until tomorrow, and he's not answering his phone. The paramedics called me, and I just feel so helpless. Mrs. Ingram's voice reached a high-level pitch that made Devin wince. Of course, I'll get over there right now. Is it Lenox Hill downtown? I'm sure everything is fine. I'll call you as soon as I have an update. Yes, the one on 14th. Thank you, Devin. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Call as soon as you get there. I will. Devin hung up the phone and began walking. She was relatively nearby, but it would be a good half hour before she made it there. She scanned her text messages, but had nothing new. She texted Christian and Beth, wondering what was up, but got no reply. When she arrived at the hospital, she entered the emergency room and asked the nearest nurse for help. Seems like he's in bed 3 in Bay 3. His nephew brought him in. Head down that hallway and you should see him. His nephew? Devin racked her brain for the Ingrams' relatives. Outside of Christian, she didn't recall them having any connections worth noting. The likelihood of Christian being here would be 0 to none. Tall, blonde, walked in with him. Poor guy looked out of it, but seems to be stable now. Like I said, straight down the hall. Thank you. The nurse gave her a polite wave, and Devin followed the direction to Bay 3, where the curtain was closed, but she could hear the doctor, who she assumed was the doctor at least, coming through loud and clear. It's a clean break. It should heal easily on its own, but we'll do an x-ray just to make sure. You're lucky it wasn't worse. She turned when the curtain opened and came face to face with Mr. Ingram. What are you doing here? Christian's voice, booming full of anger, rang out from the edge of Mr. Ingram's bed. She hadn't noticed him originally, but looking at him now, he looked worn down. Well, more beat up, if she was being honest. What happened to you? She looked back and forth from Christian to Mr. Ingram, trying to make sense of what was going on. Mr. Ingram's nose was swollen, and he held an ice pack to it. His shirt was rumpled, and his hair looked like it had been pulled. Christian was covered in blood, perhaps not his own. He had his right hand wrapped on ice, and was sporting a few scrapes on his cheekbone. Don't start, Dev. Christian winced as he flexed his hand. Don't start, Dev? You don't get to say anything right now, Christian. What the hell happened to the two of you? Devin, how do you know Christian? Mr. Ingram's muffled voice came out from under the ice pack he was holding. We're roommates. We went to college together. It's complicated. Devin threw her hands in the air as she paced the small space back and forth. Riddle me this. How did the both of you end up in the hospital looking like you just got into a fight? Well, because we did. Mr. Ingram nodded in confirmation to Christian's statement. A fight about what exactly? Devin continued pacing, making herself only moderately dizzy. She was too fired up to sit down. Christian felt strongly that he needed to speak to me about his sister, a topic on which there has been a huge misunderstanding. Misunderstanding my ass. You know what you did. You robbed her of a future. Christian turned to face away from Mr. Ingram, who winced at his movement, apparently still fearful of another blow to the nose. Did you punch him in the face? Devin looked at Christian incredulously. I didn't mean to, he grumbled from the corner he was trying to back himself into. Jesus Christ, Christian, you can't just go hitting people. You can't just go around hitting my boss. Hey, I knew him long before you were employed by him, and he deserved it after what he did to Jessie and to my mom. Christian turned his ire back to Mr. Ingram. Do you have any idea how many jobs my mom and I had to work to get Jessie through college, through med school? Meanwhile, you were rolling around in money that wasn't even yours to begin with. Devin stepped in between them. It seemed like Christian was going to take another swing. Okay, take it easy. She put her palms to his chest and could feel the adrenaline pulsing through his body. I'm fine. He pushed her hands away from him and ran his fingers through his hair, forgetting briefly that they were covered in blood. Christian, Mr. Ingram's voice cut through the tension. As I said before, I was never aware that your sister or your family needed money. I wasn't even aware there was money. When we spoke on the phone, I was grieving, but I told you I had my lawyers look into your father's will and all of his accounts. They reviewed his entire estate, and I was told that there was nothing there. Wait, you were told? Devin's ears perked up at his word choice. Told by whom? I was told by Christine. She had always handled all of our financials. I'm just the pretty face. He tried to smile, but winced at the pain in his face. Hold on. You never sat down with the lawyers yourself? Devin's head was swimming. No, I was in London when he died. The lawyers handled everything, and Christine was my proxy. What if she lied to you? Devin couldn't believe the words that popped out of Christian's mouth. Excuse me? Mr. Ingram looked horrified. You heard me. What if she lied to you? You kept telling me that you didn't know anything about this money, that you were told by her that there was nothing, but I have proof that we were entitled to something, anything. So what if there's a chance that she's lying? That's my wife you're speaking about. I would tread very carefully. Mr. Ingram made to get up off the bed, but gave up after realizing he was tied to an IV drip. Devin's mind was turning. It wasn't impossible to conceive. It's not the worst theory I've ever heard, she chimed in. Oh, not you too, Devin, Mr. Ingram said through a hand onto his head. He lived for the dramatic execution. I'm just saying, what are the odds that Mrs. Ingram hires me, who happens to know I'm just saying, what are the odds that Mrs. Ingram hires me, a woman who happens to know your stepnephew, and calls me up out of the blue to offer me a job that doesn't even exist, a job you knew nothing about before I showed up? You've been watching too many crime shows. My wife is not a criminal. There is no money that I know of, and I'm asking you two to leave now. The tone of his voice made Devin gather her things. Come on, Chris. She grabbed his hand and walked him out of the bay, closing the curtain behind her. Devin, what if you're right? He held her hand the entire walk out of the emergency room and back into the daylight. If I am, we have a huge problem. What's that? I've been working for a criminal. Later that evening, Devin took a seat at the end of the couch opposite Christian. He had fallen asleep during the movie, and she hadn't bothered to wake him up. So you really think she's a criminal? He mumbled from underneath the blanket she had thrown over him. I think there's more to this story than we thought. Devin had called Mrs. Ingram on their way home from the hospital to fill her in on nearly everything she had learned. She sounded relieved about the fact that it was just a broken nose and had decided to stay in Aspen to finish her trip. But do you believe he's telling the truth? Christian sat up, rubbing his eyes with his good hand. She tried not to stare at the adorable way his hair stood up on end, making him look exactly like he did when they met. My gut says yes. I've worked with him for a bit, and he seems like a decent man. I know your experience with him has been different, but I honestly think that there's something up with his wife. It's all too coincidental for my liking. She shifted in her seat and put her feet under the blanket. I don't have the energy to be angry anymore. Christian sounded exhausted and looked defeated. Devin scooted closer to him on the couch and nearly put a hand on his shoulder before thinking better of it. That's probably because you got it all out during your tussle. He smirked conspiratorially. I didn't mean to punch him. For what it's worth, fighting isn't my thing. How'd you find him anyway? She turned her body to see him more clearly, and what she saw was a sad and defeated man. After our fight yesterday, I needed to let off some steam, so I went to see Joe, who had just been unceremoniously dumped by Kira, which you have to fill me in on, by the way. Devin had nearly forgotten about that entire situation, and all the excitement over the last few days. We've got time for that, but continue. She made the gesture to move things along. Anyway, Joe was upset about Kira and said something about being cheated out of a good situation, and I don't know, but something about what he said just made me snap. I was so mad about the entire thing that I walked to the theater district and went to a few of the names that I could remember. I asked around, and then I finally found him. I went to his office to talk to him, and he was so nice, so genuinely surprised to see me. Devin could picture it, Mr. Ingram being polite, sometimes happy, maybe even gregarious towards a nephew he hadn't seen in years. And we got to talking. It was all normal catching up, and then he asked about Jessie. So I told him about how devastating it was to have gone through that, and he pretended not to know anything. Christian paused, considering his choice of words. Well, I guess he actually didn't know anything, and one thing led to another, and suddenly we're in a shouting match, and then we're fighting, and then I threw a punch, and there went his nose. Devin suppressed a laugh at his word choice. It was mildly hilarious, but this wasn't the time or the place to laugh at that sort of imagery. It sounds like you had quite the day. She leaned into him, and he leaned back, pulling more of the blanket over her legs. It certainly wasn't what I had planned. I had initially wanted to talk to you and apologize. For what? She looked up at him, and his eyes searched in hers for something she couldn't name. For threatening to kick you out, for being mad at you about something that was out of your control, and for not telling you what I really thought. Really thought about what? About you living here. I love having you here, Devin. I don't want you to move out. Ever. I mean, realistically, you might when you meet someone, but until then, I hope you stay here because I'll really miss you when you do. He took a breath and exhaled slowly. Devin took her cue to be upfront and honest. She only had one shot at this. Christian, yesterday before we got into the fight, I was going to tell you something really important. He looked at her with so much worry she began stumbling over her words, rushing them out as quickly as possible. I was going to tell you that I loved you and that I wanted to have a relationship with you because we keep missing each other. Every single time we have the chance, I mess it up. I don't want to mess it up anymore. I want this with you, here in this apartment, every night until one of us gets sick of the other. But honestly, I don't think I'll ever get sick of you, and I understand if you don't. Before she could finish her sentence, his hands wrapped around the back of her neck, his mouth finding hers in desperation. When he kissed her, her entire body lit up and she craved him. Christian lifted her easily from his side onto his lap, and she let out a light groan as her hips found his. A moan escaped his lips, and his hands traveled freely down her back to her chest, lightly grazing her nipples as they moved to her hip bones, gently rocking them back and forth. Fuck, Devin, he murmured into her hair as he moved it aside to find her collarbone. Wait. He pushed himself back from her, looking around the room in a daze. What? She was breathless and confused. I just want to make sure I heard you before we do this. We're really doing this, you and me, here, in this apartment, like a couple? He looked at her, and she could see the years of fear, hurt, and uncertainty behind his eyes. Devin moved her hands to the base of his neck and ran her thumb along the part she wanted so badly to kiss. I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. I know that I always chose someone else, and they were always wrong. It should have always been you. Christian, I'm so sorry. It took me years to figure that out. But yes, I want to do this. I only want you. Is that okay? She looked back at him and was shocked to see the slightest hint of tears behind his eyes. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. We don't need to do this right now. She went to climb off his lap, fully ready to embrace the reality that he didn't want her the way that she wanted him. Where are you going? He tugged her hips back down onto his, and she could feel the shiver of pleasure run up her spine from the friction. I just thought. He pulled her in for a kiss before releasing her. I love you too, Devin. Don't think for a second I didn't hear you say that in your speech. I just wanted to say it back because it's important to me and I mean it. I love you. Devin tilted her head down to his, and he kissed her with such tenderness she didn't even know it was possible. Let me have you, he whispered to her, and she did.